Yo, what's poppin', gamers? Hope you're all doing well. It's been a while. It's been a month. When was last time? Almost a little more than a month. Yep, only 4 submissions this time. I thought we'd have more for this one, but I was kind of excited to get a little more, but 4 is pretty good. We're big chillin'. I purposely picked something a little smaller, but it's alright. 3 will do, or 4 will do just fine. I'll give it a couple minutes. Maybe like a few seconds. Sup, dog? What's poppin', gamer? What's up? Let's do a wood tutorial. I'll think about it. I've been thinking about it. Let's see what. I actually never checked that little survey I did on my server. What did I do that? 3 people voted no. One of them was me, one of them was individual, and the other one was a joke from John Machine. 140. Okay, well, all right. Well, I'll think about it. I'll think about it. What's up, dude? All right. Let's get going. Let's see what we got. Thank you, Dio. All right. Let's take a look. Oh, that was the vote. Yeah, the reaction. I put a yes or no reaction on that post. Looks like only one person voted no. The other one was a joke. I know that guy. There he is. um, what was I saying? All right, let's give it a shot. So this is my ref board that I used for this project because, excuse me, I also participated in this one. Yeah, pretty standard. Just the challenge was to model obviously the wood and then the internal what was this piece called? The gas tube, and then these two like bracket pieces that connect to the barrel assembly and stuff. And then this internal piece here, which can be found. All I could find was this gun disassembly. That's all I could find, but for that reference. Actually, I feel like I found one on YouTube and I didn't include it here. That's right. That's what I'm remembering. But, anyways, so that was the challenge, and then yeah, we got 4 submissions. Let's check them out. So first thing, starting at the top, we got Andre. All right. Pretty cool looking. Pretty cool looking. I do have some feedback for the texturing. I do want to look at which ones I provided. Just so I know which references I provided. These guys. Okay, just so I don't like trying to judge it all fairly here. Okay. All right, so let's take a look at the model. So right off the bat, I can kind of see it's like it's pretty sharp looking here. I think a big part of this model, but helps it feel less like a 3D model was some of, let me find this reference right here. It was kind of like my main reference, was a lot of these sort of rounded corners. It's kind of subtle, but it's very round. It's not exactly like perfect. Like you have here, especially this reference here. I use this reference a lot. But I think getting like these subtle bends as opposed to just a perfect, like, it looks like you kind of have that, but I think a little bit more in terms of the softness would help make it feel a little, what's it called? A little less CG and more like a real model, you know. The thing I will say is that on all the references I found, there's some sort of a slight gap here. Looks like yours is pretty flush to it. It almost feels like it's really perfect, you know. One of the things that I tried to do a lot with mine was make sure that it was like imperfect, you know, so adding like a gap here. Yeah, so like a small gap so it doesn't feel super perfect. The rubber band looks pretty cool. I think we're gonna see the low poly, but it looks a little low. We'll check. We'll take a look at that. Other than that, I think the model's good though. Kind of a simple model, but looks like we're missing this bracket piece in here. I'm not sure where that one went. But yeah, it's kind of the same thing. This model is feeling like a little too robotic, a little too robotically made. It's too like perfect. It feels kind of fake, I think. I found these cool references. You can really see, well, you can't really see, but you can kind of see in this one. You could see it's very like jagged and very like rough, less perfect looking. So, but oh, thank you for the follow, Coop, by the way. But yeah, let's keep looking. This all looks pretty correct, I think. Yeah. Having done this model and stared at it for a while now, I can kind of just like remember a little bit. But you have a chamfer here. I don't know where that came from. Yeah, you have like this like kind of perfect box look to this piece. This piece is super like carved out in a lot of these references. Yeah, especially take a look at this one. This one, it's like almost like carved out of the wood here. You can almost see where they like cut it. I don't know how they made this thing, but you know, I think it's too boxy and too perfect looking. A couple of the references do look like that, like this one here, but even then it's still like you can kind of see the corners bending where like the wood's been smashed together, you know, for a while. Let's take a look at stuff here. I think this like corner is too big. I think it's supposed to be, this is supposed to come up a little bit more and then it's supposed to kind of round off like that a little bit. Let's see, there's something about these that I need a better render. Looks like these are all the renders we got, but this piece, this little thick cutout here, it's supposed to come a lot. Yeah, there we go. It's supposed to kind of like almost, I don't think it's supposed to be fully rounded in. It's supposed to kind of just be like a, if you took a cylinder and booleaned it in, so it's supposed to be kind of hard right here. And then come around like that, as opposed to, looks kind of like you did like a sphere boolean in there. I think it's supposed to be more like a cylinder with a flat face right there. Konnichiwa to you too. Sup, sir? What is this face doing? Renders are a little hard to tell, but it looks like you have some sort of like a chamfer face here. I'm not sure what is going on there. Yeah, this doesn't look right. This chamfered face. I'm thinking maybe you tried to like chip off the wood here, but it's looking a little too perfect and fake. Because it's supposed to kind of the model's supposed to kind of curve in here. I think that's what you maybe have misinterpreted, but it looks a little too perfect here. And then I would have rounded out this corner. Well, I think that's about it on the model wise. Take a look at the low poly. This is all we got for the low poly. A few more screenshots would have been a bit helpful, but it's not too bad, although I can see kind of the main curves could use probably a bit more geo. Like take a look at this curve. This curve looks great, but then this curve down here could use a little more. I think we're gonna see that. You can see it here in the render. The renders are a little dark. Wow, voice crack already, damn it. Looks a little dark as well. And then I see you welded here. That's a pretty good optimization, but again, kind of with the like making the model look a little jankier. I think I would have left a little gap there just to add some more like interesting read to the silhouette, because it's kind of like flat all along the top, you know. Yeah, surprisingly not too many. Also, I noticed for your gas tube, these cuts are supposed to be a little wider. Should be a little wider. They're supposed to be. You guys can see my reference, right? Yeah, you can see my reference. So yeah, it's supposed to be like. Yours is like that. It's supposed to be wider and more closer together. Something about this piece feels a little too thick. I think you're good. Although, well, I think you're good, but although you're missing, there's a little cut out here. So the way this shape works, oh, that's too dark. That's too dark. I think there's like some sort of misinterpretation here. I know there's a couple of these pieces online, so I mean, you might have gone with a different approach, but based on what I'm seeing here, it looks like, where was that picture? Where's that picture I just at? There it is. It's supposed to kind of come down, and then there's supposed to be a cut right here, almost like a box boolean going in, and then it's supposed to kind of sit flush with this right here, with the barrel or the gas tube. Just sit flush a little bit. But anyways, so based on the low poly, yeah, unfortunately, with a rubber band like this, even though it's like smaller, I think you'd have to give it a little bit more density, because I think we can see that in the render, right? Yeah, you can kind of see where the silhouette falls apart right here. It looks really low. Also, I can see the rim light like underneath the rubber band. That might mean your rubber band is kind of floating a little bit. It's a little hard to tell. But yeah, so make sure whenever you have something that's sticking out of the silhouette, it should always be a little bit higher, I think, than the base silhouette. Doesn't look like you chamfered any of these edges. I think I did, just because it was like kind of a softer model to give it like a softer read. That's what I did. I think that's what I would have done. But other than that, from what we can see in this image, I think it looks pretty good. Unfortunately, we don't get much. Let me see if I'm missing anything. I should have messaged when you posted, and that's my fault. Let's look at the UVs. You got some empty space up here on all these red areas. People will like to see that filled. So, other than that, it also looks pretty tight. You could possibly like spread some of these out more, give them more padding, and then, or possibly scale it all up and then give it more padding. Give everything a little bit more spacing, like move things out here a little bit. But for the most part, it looks pretty good. Just a little tight and then some like missing space here. So, low poly, we did that. All right, let's look at the textures. I think the textures we're going to have most of my feedback on this one. So, yeah, so a few things, you know, you're missing like some of these cool details that I would add. Like these guys here. Some of these guys. I think you got it, but it's a little ambiguous like what it is. I wish there was like more shape to it or like more readability to it, because right now it kind of just reads like a oil stain wear. But as far as down here goes, there's like a really soft like dark black sort of effect that happens after this like red glue part. I think would have been pretty cool to add to help break up sort of like the, because it looks a little flat right now. I think it's just like brown, red, yellow. Yellow, red, brown, yellow, red, brown. You know, it's kind of just repetitive. I think some more like different variation in this red would have been cool, like having some parts be like the black dirt, you know, as opposed to it all just being kind of the same. And I think some of these edges just feel kind of too perfect. Like adding like a super subtle warp filter on the end will help break it up just a little bit. Yeah, kind of the same thing down here. These lines are feeling like super they're super straight and they're super like they look pretty fake just based on how perfect they are. You don't really see that in a lot of the references. I think this is I'm not sure if this is a real reference, honestly. I think that was like an airsoft one. I don't know. But even looking at let's look at a good one. So take a look at this one. So here you can clearly see like the line here. But when you really look into it, it's like you can see it kind of sticks out here, it comes in here. You know, so there's a lot more waviness to some of these things that makes it sell it as a lot less fake, I think. But I see that you're handling the wood grain in like two different directions, which is pretty cool. Which is how it's supposed to be. You can tell here the wood grain is going this way, and then it's like going, looks like it's going the same way here, but it is being handled differently, which is good. Yeah, here, like you can see the wood grain going different ways. So that's cool. Another thing I will say is we're kind of lacking in like dirt and stuff. I think a lot of these references are not this clean. And also one thing to add, with the way that the wood was built, you shouldn't have like ends of these planks. It should continue down until some other plank, like I don't know how to explain it. Some other like cut takes over, kind of like how you did here on the bottom. So these lines, they end right here because the way the wood was made, it transitions to a different like type of cut. I don't really know how to explain it, but instead of just ending them here, they should have ended like a little bit down more. Because now it kind of just feels like you put stripes on there and then you kind of painted it out along this edge, masked it out. But other than that, you know, some of this wear I think is feeling a little low res. It looks like. I know we have 4K, so I don't know. Not sure what went wrong there. It's feeling, some of it's feeling kind of blurry. Yeah, a little low res and kind of just generic like fillery kind of noise, I think. One thing I noticed here, so this was a thing that I had to deal with as well. I can see that you have one wood material and then you have another stripes wood material. However, they alternate, right? So, but I can see like where the details continue over through different wood through the stripes. Let me see if I can find a different. Unfortunately, you don't have a ton of unique detail into the wood, so I can't really demonstrate. But this was something that I had to break up as well because it looks really kind of fake when you have where was that, the same details just kind of like perfectly placed together. I feel like that wouldn't really happen with a lot of this stuff. So like, I'm trying to find an example. Let me find an example. I can't really find a direct example, but I mean, you can kind of see some of the wood grain here going along. It doesn't continue perfectly right here, exactly as if it was just like a fill layer getting painted out right here, you know? It's treated as like two separate planks. And what I did actually was have three materials. So I have one wood material, my stripes wood material, then a second wood material that's different than this one. And then actually I think I had four. So like it differs here and here, then it alternates here and here based on, so like this is 1, 2, then this is 3, 4. So we have four different materials and then it kind of tiles in here. So you don't have one right next to one, if that makes sense. You have 1, 2, 3. That's probably overcomplicating what I meant to say, but I think you get the gist. So it doesn't look very super tiled and stuff. And another thing I would say is I know a little hard, but I can tell that you have put a line here and then used anisotropic noise over this entire stuff here. So what I had to do actually was kind of do a little bit of my own projection, like a stencil projection along here to give it sort of a more unique, like, how do I put it? Something that doesn't look so perfectly masked out like this does. So I gave it, I gave it the line. I did a warp on the line, and then I took a smudge brush and I smudged it in the different angles that I wanted it to, so it wasn't just a anisotropic noise taken out, if that makes sense. Because I can kind of tell that that's what's going on here. It's all perfect. Like the distance of this anisotropic noise is all perfect. Like I can trace this section right here. So what I did was to break that up. I did this, but then I took a smudge brush and smudged it in areas so it looks a little like more like this guy here. So you can kind of see where the glue like sticks out further than others. So that's something that I did. Another thing I noticed, this height right here is not looking too good. I'm not sure where that came. Looks a little fake. Then the only other thing I'll say is I think some of these textures look a little flat, especially in here. There was like a ton of room for all of this crazy oils and stuff. I feel like we could have pushed it a little harder in terms of the wear. And another thing I'll say about the wood wear is this stuff feels kind of fake because there's no other wear on this thing at all. Like this thing is perfectly clean. It doesn't make sense for something perfectly clean to have just like targeted areas of wear. You would need some other wear to help sell it, if that makes sense. So let's say this like edge wear here. It works because there's soft, subtle wear here, soft like edge wear here, here. You know, it's not just a targeted like perfect edge removal here, because I can tell that you probably just stenciled this in, which makes it look kind of fake. And the same thing here, looks a little fake. But I think that's all I got. Overall, I think we could have pushed it a little more in terms of like the dirt, oils, the wear. The model looks a little CG, I think, a little too CG. And then I think that's all I got for that. The low poly looked pretty good. Looks like everyone came under budget. I had trouble coming under budget. I'm not gonna lie. I think I was at like 16K on mine. So you guys did pretty good. I probably added a few unnecessary bevels just for like rendering, but oh well. What are we gonna do? Yeah, and then stuff like this, you know, with a lot of these references have like really chewed up edges on this thing. So that would have been another cool thing to add. I did a big sculpt job on that. On mine at least. Oh, and then one thing you're missing here. There is a radial like inset here that goes on right there, and then there's a hole in the stock that goes through here, or through the handguard. Yeah, you can see it right here. Other than that, it's cool. So I appreciate you participating, and we're gonna move on. Yes. All right, next up we got Notcolin. This one is pretty cool. Pretty cool. Let's check it out. I feel like these are too high. This feels like maybe this gap for some reason just feels like too wide, but you got the subtle angle here. Oh wait, okay, so you did get the subtle bend here. That was important too. Okay. Oh, and I think this is probably your best render right here, based on the lighting. I like that one a lot. Let's check this one out. Oh, thank you, Fishy. I appreciate it, dude. You don't have to, but thank you, man. And thank you for the follow as well. Okay, looks cool. I think it's supposed to come more to a point right here. That's not bad. That's not great. I think this should be moved over just like a slight bit more over here. New account. Everyone go make a new Amazon Prime account and sub with Prime. Okay. Please don't, because I don't know what to do with that. All right. This all looks correct. Looks like you got some sort of like inner piece here. I didn't get that in there. Huh. I'm not sure where this piece came from. I didn't see that one. On my reference. Oh, this is a helpful. I think you made a little bit of a mistake here. There's something up with this angle here. I feel like it's too steep. It doesn't look, something off about it looks off. It's supposed to be a little bit more parallel with this line here. And then it's supposed to swoop down like you have it. Something off about that. This piece feels slightly too thick. And then this is very boxy right here. I think we're going to look at that in the low poly. But other than that, it's pretty good. I think this is this an airsoft gun? I don't remember. The rubber band looks good, although I kind of ran into this issue because I did the same type of rubber band. It's bending a little too perfect. I think if you bent this specific rubber band, you'd see that it would actually like. Do I have a picture of it? It's a little hard to see, but you have to remember that this thing is like, there's a lot of tension in it, so you have to kind of think of that, how that would affect the way it twists. So there'd be kind of a convex angle here. It would kind of bend in on itself. That would help sell the tension a little bit more. Because right now it kind of feels like a spaghetti noodle got twisted. I think it's supposed to be a little bit more pressed to. Well, no, it wouldn't be pressed. Excuse me. I think overall, the twist like would be flatter. That's I think how it would look, and then a little bit more, like I said, convex, concave. I know my science terms. Looks like you got this right. Yours is missing the hole right here. I'm not really seeing any references without the hole there, so I think that might be a mistake. So, and then also these, it looks like you have a straight up and down angle here, like a 90 degrees. It's sort of I think it's supposed to be more of like an angled curve in here. Yes, there's some good textures on this one. Huh? Yeah. Because you can see here where the stripes kind of come into play. Well, actually. Yeah, the way I interpreted this was a little bit more, there's more of an angle here as opposed to just a 90-degree cutout, I think. I could be wrong. I might have, also I can't remember what I did. Let me look at my RC. Let me see what I did. I'm just curious. Yeah, mine I had mine come down at a bit of an angle. 1 second. Okay. Other than that, looks good. Looks pretty good. I'm not seeing anything, nothing's jumping out at me. We're going to talk about some textures in a second. One thing I noticed there. Go back to the Twitch stream. There we go. Other than that, it's a little boxy here. Kind of the same thing. I would have like chipped up these edges a little more. Same here. Based on what I'm seeing in the reference, they're very rounded, very dull. Not too sharp. Kind of the same thing here. And here as well. Too boxy and too perfect. Kind of see a little bit of your corners here as well. Yeah, same here. These are things that make it feel kind of, it looks like you have a curve here. I like that. But it makes it feel kind of CG when when a big organic object that was like organically sculpted from wood, you know, has sharp corners. It really kind of takes you out of it a little bit. Out of the illusion. This all looks correct to me, I think. This looks good. There might be some. No, I think this piece looks a little soft. A little soft in the high poly. Yeah, I think you may have high polyed a bit too soft there. And the same here. I think a lot of this stuff is kind of reading a little blobby. Some of these metals. Oh, I will say, this piece is supposed to be sharp. And then it's supposed to, where are we? So it comes, I had a good reference of this somewhere. Can't see it now. At least I think it was. Yeah, I didn't see any references that had like a curve to it here. But I think it's supposed to also come out to this edge right here. And then be a little bit wider on the inside. I don't remember seeing this squared off look to it. I thought it was more like this bracket would like fit into place here, and then there'd be like a nice rounded gap kind of all the way going across for the barrel to fit through. That's how I interpreted it. I do like the little subtle bends you added in the rubber band. It looks nice. All right, let's look at the low poly. Nice and readable. Nice. Cool. I think some of these main areas are a little low. What was my try count last estimate on it? About 10K. Yes, you could have gone. I would have probably added like a few thousand more just to round out some of these areas a little more for renders. But it actually came out pretty good. I don't really see a whole lot of faceting, so it did pretty good, although I can see a little bit at the top here. I think we'll see that in the low poly. Yeah, unfortunately the wood silhouette doesn't quite line up with the metal bracket here, so you can kind of see it like poking out of the silhouette. So that's kind of unfortunate. But, hell yeah, it's a fun model. It's a fun model to make. Looks like you went pretty dense inside these curves. Yeah, you went really dense in these curves. You could have saved a little bit of geo in here and just let the bakes do the work, but same here. You could have collapsed some of this inner geo because it's not actually in the silhouette. It's just kind of sitting there. And then it'll just get baked over and it'll be good. You could have moved some of that geo down to here. I would have added a slight chamfer here to demonstrate that these are like different materials. Like this metal is sharp, but then the wood is soft, you know? That's something I would have done. But other than that, it's looking pretty good. It looks pretty solid. If there's no difference between these two, like some of these segment counts, you could just collapse them down to one edge and just have one edge going in. So one edge across there. That's what I would do, just save a few tries if I was really in a crunch, but not a big deal. Then I noticed you also only have one edge here. What is that? Oh. It's a little hard to tell from the screenshots, but it looks like you have. Oh, never mind. Oh, I think you have a chamfer going across. I was gonna say, it looks like you have one edge to support this, like, pretty fat curve here. I'll say that might not hold up in a. That might not hold up in some of the renders, but I think it does. I think you have enough geo. Yeah, I think you're good. But all right, let's look at the UV. The UVs. What's that? Looks pretty good. I think some edges could have been straightened a little bit. Some of these guys. But that looks fine. You could have maybe straightened these out, but since it's a little low geo, they might have been a little too skewy, so maybe not. I would have probably straightened this guy out. Although these guys, I would have definitely... These guys are taking up a lot of space when in reality they could really just take up this space. And make it a little edge, so straighten it out instead of just having it be a circle in the UVs. Yeah, these guys are taking up a lot of UV space like that. Sorry for is texturing wood mostly trial and error? Honestly, yeah, kind of some trial and error. I don't have like a secret like formula to just like, oh, here's wood. Okay, you do this, this, and this. Nah, it is kind of a lot of experimenting with what looks cool and making it look unique and real, I guess. There's no like easy like formula, if that's what you're asking. Yeah, there's just some empty space. I think part of it is caused by some of these circular UV shells. But other than that, I think it's pretty good. And then a few areas to straighten. But let's look at the textures. The gloss looks really uniform here. We're missing a lot of like dirt and oils. Also, I can tell you have some sort of like an edge generator here. That looks a little CG. There's something about this that kind of reads like barnacles on a ship. I looked at this like the first thing I noticed. There's like, first of all, you have a curvature generator that kind of needs to get rid of. Kind of needs to be gone. But then you have this like, this reminds me of like barnacles stuck to like a ship. I'm not sure what it's supposed to be. I think you're trying to do dirt, but dirt doesn't really get bumpy like this. I'm not really sure what that's supposed to be. Maybe rust? It doesn't look like rust. Another big thing that I want to point out with these scratches. These are a fill layer, and I can tell because they are everywhere. Where are they? Here, they are everywhere, and they are very random. And they are very straight looking, and they are going over geo in a way that is unnatural. So like here, the way this scratch carries down right here. Honestly, this fill layer, just toss it. Just go in and delete it. I like that it's like not going over this stripe, but that doesn't really make sense to me. Because like if you're scratching the entire thing, there's something about it just doesn't feel right. There's also other places like here. Yeah, this is I think this is the biggest thing I noticed. This scratch fill layer. It's not looking great. It's on everything. So yeah, and it's ending where your UV seams are. I can see. Yeah, it's like even right here too. Yeah, it's very unnatural looking. The way it switches directions here looks like a Nike logo. Just do it. But by do it, I mean delete this fill layer. I think it'll look a lot better. All right, let's look at some other stuff. This render is blown out right here. Same here. Can't really tell much what's going on there, which I want to see because this is like pretty interesting. Do you have to add damage in ZBrush to make it look good? It depends on what damage you're adding. If you're adding scratches like this, no, you don't have to do those in ZBrush. But let me just drag over a couple pictures that I took. Let me drag over a render. Here. I hate to just put my work in here, but this is the damage that I sculpted in. So here I sculpted in, chromatic aberration too. But sculpted in these details here. These are the big damage, like silhouette reading damages that I sculpted in. Same here, big edge chipping and organic chipping. That's what I sculpted, if that's what you're asking. Okay, let's continue. The milling lines are cool. I think maybe a little bit more subtle. And then I see we got this. I saw this reference here. I think everyone else did too, because they also added a milling line. That's cool. But it looks pretty cool. I like that you're like handling the damage as like a different material. It's like scratching up this way. That's pretty cool. Still, these scratches are not a fan of those. And then you got this kind of like height dirt again. I'd probably just leave it out of the height. I think it looked a lot better that way. Trim dynamic gober. Yeah, that's the best brush. That and I downloaded a stylized brush pack because I was doing stylized a little bit. And there's one of them. I think it's orb flatten or something. One of those is like super good. But anyways, I like the look you have here of these metallic materials. They look pretty cool, I think. I think maybe the wear is too painted on, maybe. I think it could be a little bit blended in a bit more. Also, some of the edges look very, you can tell there's like a generator, a curvature, like it's a straight line on it. But trying to find a good render to look at. Oh, one thing, I circled this area because I can tell you're doing some sort of like a warp projection with these stripes. But the way that this thing is supposed to be made is that these stripes aren't supposed to get cut off here. It's supposed to be perfectly go around and not getting cut off by the mesh, which was kind of hard to do because I had a problem with that. I might have made the model like wrong, so I had kind of a tough time doing that. But I like that you got the different directions in the wood there. That looks pretty cool. Yeah, this dirt, I would take the height out of it. Just leave it a little bit in like the diffuse, and then gloss. The height kind of makes it look like mud. Doesn't look too great. And then you're also missing some of the cool stripe wood plank details that are in a lot of the references. This area is like super cool. But I like that you've got the little detail here. I would have added some more like blurry smudges around it, I think. Yeah, yeah. Damn stand. The orb crack brush is pretty cool, but damn standard is still. Actually, I think I use the crack brush more now. Yeah, damn standard was like too perfect looking. I don't remember. It's been a while since I actually touched the. So I see you got these. Okay. Let's take a look at the bottom here. So I could tell that you're handling the wood differently. That looks pretty cool. These scratches. Instead of putting these scratches, why don't you put some stenciled like edgeware here? They'll look much better. I like this. This looks pretty cool. Looks pretty well made, I think. I think what I would have done is maybe get, for some of this, the black like glue edge, whatever you call it, I'd probably add a bit more like directionality to it so we can see that a little bit more. But you have a nice height as well. It looks nice. Yeah, it looks pretty good. Looks pretty good. As far as the wood goes, Let's really see a whole lot. Get another render. Like especially like this area here, like I really love this. This looks really cool. Looks really well made. You got like some sort of like a warp in here. That's a pretty cool. Looks pretty cool. Some sort of like stripe details in here that looks kind of cool too. I think your renders are a bit overexposed, by the way. Say. There's something off about this. This doesn't look. This is supposed to be like a stamp, but this feels like Times New Roman font. And also, I think there's too much detail that's like overlapping it, so it kind of gets lost. This thing is like pretty harshly stamped in there. Like I made it. Mine looks a little CG looking back at it, but I made it very different around the border, so it doesn't get lost. Yours gets a little lost, I think. That's fine. Other than that, I think it looks pretty cool. I don't really have much else. Just scratches. The rubber band looks good. Honestly, I think it looks better if you kind of remove some of the white, like grungy noise to it. Looks pretty good. Do we have an inside view of the top lid, actually? There we go. So you've got some sort of logo type thing here. I will say in a couple of the references, the inside wood should be like much more yellowish looking. I think that would have been a bit cooler to add some more contrast to the different I don't know, just it doesn't all read like this brown light brown metal, or not metal, wood. I think it would have looked a little cooler if you made it a little brighter on the inside, like some of these references here. Would have had a nice material separation, even though it's all the same material and it's not separated. But also, there's this really blurry. Is this a DOF thing? That'd be a DOF thing. Some of them are a little blurry. Yeah, the high poly was definitely smooth a little too much. Compared to the wood right next to it, there's like this is really blobby. Yeah, that's a really large highlight. I would have probably sharpened up the metal a bit more. Because material definition starts at the high poly. I think that's all I got. Maybe just some like stronger dirt building up in here, like some more oils, because this part is like gas tube and I don't know, explodey bits, you know. But other than that, I think it's pretty good. And then just a lot more dirt and grime here. I think would have looked a lot cooler. Looks a little flat, I think. Oh, and then here it's kind of the same thing. All the references I saw of this should be like a kind of like that, as opposed to, you know. So something to keep in mind. Also, this piece looks a little thick. All right, let's look at the best render. This one's pretty. Yeah, the rubber band looks nice. I ended up not rendering with the rubber band. I didn't like the way mine turned out. Yeah, that was like a last minute decision too. Something's up here. I feel like there's like a misalignment with this red stripe here. I feel like the red stripe should be like right up here. There's something up with that. Yeah, there's something a little bit, but um, best render. Which one's the best? I think this one's probably the best. This one's also pretty good too. Very nicely rendered. Very nicely rendered. Some of them are a little overexposed, but I think these ones are very cool. Very cool. Thank you, Notcolin. Thank you for participating, dude. Pretty cool stuff. Ooh, you might have put too much diffuse information into these milling lines because you can kind of see it when the light's not shining on it directly. You can kind of see it still. That looks a little fake, but anyways. Anywho, let's move on. Cyberpadla. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Let's take a look. Ooh. Oh, yes. All right. Okay. All right. Cool. Gas tube is in. Oh, maybe. Maybe I was wrong then. Maybe this is supposed to be a rounded piece. Damn. There was not a whole lot of what's it called? Not a whole lot of references on this guy. Not a whole lot of easy references to find. Padla is kind of asshole in Russian. Is it? Does that mean asshole in Russian? Not funny. Cyber asshole. There's a small lip here that you're missing. Small little lip there. I see you've got some sort of rounded little curve there. I like that. I like the little subtle bend there. I think you could have carried it up here too to kind of match this reference. A little bit more curvy there. Let's see. This piece looks correct. This piece. I noticed you got the gas tube sticking out here. Was it supposed to be like that? I think the gas tube ended like right here. And then this is where the like the other part, I don't know what it's called. I don't know. Fits into the gun here. So I'm not sure if this is like totally accurate, but oh, did the train go by? Dude, I've totally like tuned out the train. I don't even hear it anymore. Other than that, looks pretty good. I think the textures are making it a little hard to read. You got that. That's cool. You got the angle here. Cool. Got that. Got that piece. That piece looks good. I like that you've got like what is going on? Something interesting is going on there. This piece here feels a little small. Like lengthwise, it feels a little small. Could be wrong. But keep going. Let's keep going. Do we have any renders without the metal caps on? It doesn't look like we do. Other than that, it looks pretty good. A little boxy here. Also, I think this is supposed to be thin right here. It's supposed to like it's supposed to, the model's supposed to kind of just swoop up here and then kind of end. It's not really supposed to, it looks like you swooped it up and then ended as a box right here. Yeah, it's kind of supposed to just come up here and then end right here as opposed to flattening out there. boxy here. A little boxy there. Other than that, I don't see much else. We don't have any internal renders, do we? Are you missing some? I think we might be missing. No, that's okay. That's it. Just, oh, I'm critiquing viewer work. We do my Discord. We do Discord challenges. So this was our Discord challenge. This AK Handguard, pretty cool. And the rubber band looks pretty good. I got nothing to say there. Looks like you added like subsurface scattering on it in the render. I don't know if you'd get that from like a kind of a thick rubber piece like that. Maybe you did. I don't know. I'm not a rubber band expert. Also, it's floating. Uh-oh. Rubber band is floating. Oh, maybe maybe that might just be AO. Might just be AO. But let's look at the low balling. Oh yeah. Good angles. Love to see it. I need to start standardizing the low poly submission. Some of them are not very helpful in reviewing it. Okay. Some of these areas are a little low. We might see that. Whoa. Train inbound. Speaking of train, didn't train just get added to Counter-Strike again? Often do you do challenges? We do it like once in every month and a half. Because these things take a while, so we do about a month and a half in between. The next challenge will get announced soon. Soon, TM. I'm curious how this looks. That looks. I was worried this looks a little low, but I think you're good. I think it came out good. So. Like that you added this little chamfer here to round this piece out a little bit more. Yeah, other than that, I don't see much else. Looks pretty good, dude. This cut off. Under or at budget as well. Oh, it's faces. Currently on a sprint to get a modeling reel from 0 to 100 in like 4 weeks. Damn. A modeling reel. Huh? 4 weeks, huh? I do love that you got these subtle organic little bends. Damn it. These little organic bends here. That's good stuff. That's good stuff. We like to see that. Love to see that. Helping it feel like that you got the gap here. Oh yeah. I didn't notice this in the renders because it just made me feel so real, you know. Greetings from Mexico. Hola. ¿Cómo estás? Like the little bends you got in the rubber band. This is really well made. Good stuff. I don't got much. In the renders, we don't see much faceting at all, really. So, I think it turned out pretty good. Nice job. Let's look at the UVs. The UVs are good. Cha-ching! Good. Nice job. Alright, let's look at the textures. Mostly hard surface only. Have to get creative. Love the keybinds. Yeah. Speed will come later. Just make cool stuff. Speed comes later. Make cool stuff, focus on speed second. That's my opinion, my onion. My honest onion. I have a few notes to say about that. I have a few things to say about these textures. Hola, muy bien. Estoy muy bien. Gracias. uh, just make cool stuff, yeah. Well, I mean, the biggest growth I saw as an artist was making stuff that I thought looked cool. It turned out always better. Always, every time I did something cool, it turned out way better. It's floating. All right. So the first thing I'm going to say about the textures is they look cool, but I have a few gripes with it. So for one, this chipping stuff, we got to talk about this real quick. It's cool, but I feel like it's too random and it's too all over the place. I feel like it's kind of distracting in the way it's just sporadically just all over the place. I love that you've got like vertical stuff, but it's blended in with the same kind of scale noise. So it like it reads from a distance as just kind of like visual noise. Personally, I would rather see it stick to like major areas, like maybe just a cluster here, then like a cluster here, here, and then like remove some of the in between kind of noise. And then another thing about it is I'm not really sure what it is because it goes over all of the detail, like it goes over the stripes, but then let me try to see. Unfortunately, I don't have any references that are kind of like this. We have some here. This one's really dark though. Unfortunately, I don't have a lot of good reference, so I'm kind of just going on based on how I feel, my emotions about it. But so it goes over everything, but then it doesn't go over certain parts, like this the edge like gluing of the planks together. I'm not sure how I feel about that. It makes it feel kind of fake, almost. Also, excuse me. Also, I'm not really a fan of how the soft like fall off kind of happens here. Looks like water damage. Yeah, it could be water damage. I'm not really sure. Without like a good reference, I couldn't really tell. But um, I will say it looks cool, but it kind of just bothers me how it does that. How it goes over everything. Um, what is going on outside, dude? Blasting me. I do like though how it like follows some of the stripes too. It looks pretty cool. It's pretty cool like that. Not really sure what the purple stuff is. That also feels kind of randomly placed. Not really sure what that's supposed to be. I haven't really seen like purple goop on stuff, so I'm not really sure. I feel like the height on some of these is a little strong. It's a little too noticeable. Um, and then another thing I have to talk about, the metal. So the metal to me reads a little grungy. Let me find a reference here. So I think you have too much like it might just be too much noise in general because it kind of reads like um it's kind of got like a cement feel to it. Also, I'm not really a fan of how all the noise is the same on like even on the wear parts and stuff. It's kind of all looks the same ish. Um, Also, I can tell you have like some brushing, but it's overwhelmed by kind of the same noise kind of scattered throughout. This kind of applies to all of the metal. Feels a little cement-like. Yeah. Also, I think it's supposed to be a little darker too. Um, Based on all the other reference, supposed to be a little bit darker. I like the dust you got. Dust looks cool. I'm not sure about this green stuff. I'm not sure what that's supposed to be. But looks cool. Pretty cool. Let me see what else we got. Nothing else is like really jumping out at me. Something's feels a little strange about this detail. It feels almost like a. It feels too basic. This detail could have used a bit more work. So like how this one. Where's that detail? Where's that detail? That one. Like this one. So I copied this one here from the reference. You can see how it kind of like stretches out in areas with the grain like that. Also, I think this grain is supposed to go a little more vertical. Also a little bit more glossy too. Yeah, it bleeds into the grain a little bit, yeah. And then there's also this detail. I don't know what this is, but I added it. I think it's from this bracket piece, like kind of sitting there for a while. That was another detail you could have added. But other than that, this thing's rendered very well. Other than the noise kind of feeling all the same on the metals, I think it's pretty good. I will say this detail you guys looks really nice. The vertical, like, not brushing, but you know what I mean. Looks pretty nice. What else can I say about it? What else can I say about it? Is the idea to get as close to reference as possible? Yeah. Yeah, try to get as photoreal as you can get it, essentially. Everyone has their own texturing styles, but the idea is to achieve photorealism. That's about all I got. I like kind of like the subtlety of this wear. It feels kind of cool like that. Other than that, I would have liked to see more of this inside area. Inside here, I would have liked to see more of that. We don't have any more. We're out of renders, so. Also, I can kind of see where like the brushing switches direction. I think you have like a UV shell right here, UV seam right there. I don't think I have much else. I'm trying to like find other things, but looks pretty sweet. Looks pretty sweet, dude. Nice job. If I think of anything, I'll come back. But for now, let's move on to Larry Chev under budget. Love to see it. There's a weird noise coming from. Ooh, nice job here. Nice. Damn, looks like I misinterpreted the reference. That one went round. Yeah. Oops. Cool, cool. One thing we missed. We missed the roundness on this piece here. Maybe we didn't. Oh, so this front piece here, I feel like it should be a little bit more round. A little more rounded there. And then this should be a pretty noticeable chamfer here. Something's, okay, so the proportions on this piece are wrong. So, okay, so first off, this hole needs to be a little smaller. These guys need to end. I like to look at where things end. So like if you draw an X on this, or X would be right about there somewhere. These details need to end about right here, and they need to be about yay thick. It looks like you got, so this needs to come up here. check out the thickness of this piece a little bit more. This is not supposed to be like an error. Oh, that's how it is. So I interpreted this as a chamfer going in here for the lever that goes in here. These pieces aren't wide enough. Should be a little bit wider. And then I think this is too blobby. Maybe in the high poly it was polished too much, but this needs to be a noticeable like chamfer, like a cut piece of metal. Let's erase all that crap. And then we also misinterpreted this distance here. I can kind of tell just by looking at it. Let's take a look. Yeah, don't have a good reference, unfortunately. Maybe we didn't. God, references on this thing were so few and far between, but it looks pretty good, I think. All right, we're gonna talk about textures later. I would have made this a bit more rounded, like these references. Right now, it's like it goes in and then like squares off here, and then comes in. I would have rounded it out more. I like this detail here. That looks cool. I didn't see that on mine, but cool. This guy is too thick. This guy is much too thick. Also a little organic looking. Perfect box ends here. Kind of the same as the other ones. A little too organic looking. Also, I don't think you put enough geo right here. Let's check out the low poly real quick. Oh, I see. Okay. So there's a bit of a misinterpretation with the reference here. So the way the reference has it, and you can tell this by, take a look at this one. Take a look at the stripes. How the stripes will give you a good idea of how the curvature works. So it goes in here and it swoops in like this. So the way you have it isn't quite correct. You have like a trapezoid here. It's supposed to come in, first of all, it's supposed to come in about right here and about right here. Actually, not supposed to come about right here. So it's supposed to, so check out the curvature here. It's supposed to come in like this and then end off like that. And then it's supposed to curve into the mesh. So right, the way you have it is too sharp. This transition isn't working. Okay. Yeah, so the way that this is overlapping isn't supposed to be like that. It's supposed to fit flush with the, there may be a slight overlap, but I think it's sticking out too much. There's like too much difference in thickness here. Also, I believe you're missing a detail. Yeah, you're missing where the grip slightly curves in right here, and it goes about like there. It sort of curves in right about there. You're missing that detail, which is why it's overhanging right here. It's supposed to meet up flush right here. Okay. This detail is a little too thin. It's supposed to be a lot thicker. About right there. Look that you got the little cut there. That looks cool. That looks cool. All right, so right off the bat, kind of taking a look at your rubber band here. It's really low for something that's really like breaking the silhouette quite a bit. It's really low looking. And a lot of twists. You went ham on the twists. So I don't think the rubber band would stick up like this. There's something about that that doesn't feel quite right. Also, it's feeling super blobby. Rubber bands are kind of sharp. They're like I think some of the other ones got it good. Let me find one that's a bit clearer. They're definitely more boxy. They don't like. I know it's a rubber, so you want to immediately think like, oh, it's gotta be soft, you know, but it's actually supposed to be kind of. Oh, it's also floating right here, especially here. It's supposed to be like a square. Maybe you didn't bake it. Did you bake a high poly on that? It kind of looks like a shaded smooth. Like you did a 360 shade on it. But you should have 3 rubber bands. It's too thick right here. This rubber band is, it's either floating or it's too thick. These pieces are supposed to be really thin, very thin metal. If they're really thick like this, it's gonna be super heavy. And keep in mind, you gotta hold that, you know. So. I think you built this too tall. It feels a little too tall. Yeah, something about it doesn't look quite right. Yeah, then we're missing just the thick curve right here. All right, let's look at the low poly. Make sure you even out the flow a little bit here. You've got this edge right here, but then it like leaves a bigger gap here, here, here. Definitely a little too low as well. We need a bit more segments here. I personally would have added just a little chamfer around here just to kind of break up the, make the material read a little softer in the silhouette. I think that would have been nice. This rubber band is pretty dense for something that just kind of is like straight. There's a lot of this geo here that could have been deleted, I think. It's like internal edges here. We could have deleted that. Yeah, double check the flow because we got a little, things are a little unclean here. You gotta make sure to clean that up. Make sure it's even. Even flow, as they like to say. Pearl Jam type beat. Also, I think this piece is a little too tall. It's supposed to be about right there. The chamfer. Oh. One thing, this has a lot of crisscrossing, like, geo here. We don't really need all that, I don't think. That's another area to shave off some tries there. Even though you're under, you probably could have gone to like 12, 13K. Same thing here, even out the flow. It's too disorganized. This part looks good. Nice. Another thing, so when you unwrap this thing, this is all going to be one UV shell, right? These are super like skinny triangles. They're going to lead to some bake errors. If you were to bake this at a non 4K resolution, like 2K, 1K, or like a half res, like 1K by 512, you're going to see some triangles popping out in the bakes. I don't know how to describe it, but if you bake it, you'll see it. And then this geo in here, you can optimize this a lot more because you're not actually seeing this silhouette in here. It can all just be baked down from the high poly and you'll see no difference. But let's look at the UVs. All right, let's check the. All right, so these guys here, these need to be straightened out because they're taking up this much UV space as opposed to this much UV space. Let me draw that again. See how much space this takes up compared to if you just straighten them out to these lines. So, Same thing here. Here. Also, make sure not to have any end guns. At least when you do the low poly, because then, you know, you might get like weirdness with like painter breaking or topologizing differently than your baking program. So try not to have that. Keep it in quads at least. Or that's what it should be, in quads. Isn't it Lauren recommended to have 0 tries, all poly? Or is that just a Maya thing? Well, it becomes triangulated, but it's not. You shouldn't have 0 tries now. That doesn't matter. Like, there's areas where, like for example, I don't know. If I had edge here and an edge here, I don't want to leave it up to the game engine or to Marmoset or Subpainter or whatever to topologize these guys here, because it's gonna do some dumb shit like this, and it's gonna leave me with a what's it called, non-manifold edge or like overlapped edge or some shit. So that's when I would go and triangulate it all myself, because I don't want to leave it up to the game engine. My professor would reject anything that had a single try. Your professor is wrong. I am so sorry to tell you that, but your professor is dead freaking wrong. We see triangles everywhere in the low poly in AAA. And even not in AAA. But you keep it in quads, you keep it maybe no end guns. Keep it no end guns. That's what we don't want. But there's triangles everywhere. Like, this is good because you don't want to leave it up to the game engine to do some shit like this. Like overlapping edge here. You want it to be, you want to control what the game engine does, what Marmoset does. So there's also like a break in the UVs here. I'm not sure if that was a good idea. Stuff like this isn't a good idea because you're just like, I don't know, you just want a clean like UV shell here. You don't want the like triangle stuff there. Also, I would have just stitched in this shell right here. Yeah, so just straighten these shells out. You know, they're taking up a lot of space because like you got all this empty space in here that they'll want to, clients and your art directors will love to see utilized more. Squeeze the UV res out of it. Other than that, it's looking pretty good. Yeah, you broke these edges here. I'm not sure why you did that. You're kind of adding UV seams in a way that it'll like, it's probably going to cause a bake error here, because it's all going to be shaded as one shell, but it's going to have a like a break here. I don't know. That might cause a bake error. We might even see it actually. See if we can spot the bake error. Where is that? It's like in the back right here. That's the right side of the model, I think. I think you're good. Yeah, I think you're fine. Not sure how. Well, that might be it right there, but yeah. Here's another area that I would topologize as fully triangles right here. Just to make sure we don't get any strangeness. Mitigate errors. It's all about mitigating errors. 3D is full of errors. What's up, dude? We are, I'm critiquing feedback from my Discord challenge. What we're doing today. We did UV, you did low poly, did UVs. Looks like you got some nice and straight, like 90-degree UVs, which is good. But yeah, just some empty space that could be utilized a bit better by breaking apart and straightening out some shells. But let's take a look at the textures. This looks pretty good. I wish it wasn't blown out in the camera. Like if you lowered the exposure a little bit, it would, so it's not just like total white. I think that'd be cool. Let's take a look at the textures. The radial milling is like cool here, but I didn't see that on the reference. I only saw it down here on this piece. It'd be nice to have some parts that aren't like identical to each other, if that makes sense. Like material breakup is important, so I would have made this material slightly different than this one, because this one the way I think of it is I look at the normal. So like if this one's like a milled piece of metal, but then this one doesn't have it, like we could kind of treat them as two separate metals and it'll look pretty cool. It'll look a bit better, I think. Careful for overexposed areas in your renders. And then the next big thing we need to talk about is the wood grain. So, I think it comes down to a little bit of a misunderstanding of what the wood grain actually is doing. So if you imagine, let me see, let me find a good reference here. Let's use this one for an example. So the way you have the wood grain set up feels very random and quite frankly just kind of incorrect. So the way the wood grain is working is that you have these little cross sections of wood that are being glued together. So this is a section of wood and it's supposed to kind of make like imagine like a loft. So we have this shape here. This is our handguard, right? And it's got this, whatever. It's got this bulge here. This is the worst drawing I've ever done. Holy shit. So we didn't just cut out a solid block of wood like this. You could probably do that, but the way they do it is they cut it into these cross sections like this. At one point it switches to like this to get the rounded curvature here. And then they're glued together. So that's what the grain is supposed to be doing. Right here, it just doesn't really make sense. The grain, it looks like tiger stripes almost. It's not quite working. You have the correct grain here, but here it's like sort of working, but it doesn't make sense how it like thins out here. It would thin out here if there was like some sort of curve in the geo there. And then it would make sense here if there was also like some sort of outward bowing curve, but there isn't. So because this is just a flat plank right here. I mean, it's not flat, but it's like rounded. And then there's another plank, there's another plank, and so on and so forth. Also, I can tell you used a warp filter here. So that's what wood grain is. Ooh, you have a hefty seam. Oh, ooh, you got a big seam right here. Watch out for that. How would that even happen? That's a strange place to get a UV seam, but anyways. So that's what wood grain is doing. Make sure to break up some of this dirt a little bit more so it's not just perfectly uniform, I'd say. I like the noise you got here. That looks cool. Remove the noise from these. Rubber bands have such a fine noise you'll never even notice it. It's very smooth rubber. Some of the chipping shapes you have here are kind of cool, but they're kind of not really blended in. It's just kind of like it goes from like this generated edge wear curvature to chipping, and then back to the curvature edge wear generator. There's nothing like here that really sells me that it's wear, that this thing's like worn, you know? There's some sort of like shadow here. Is that what that is? We don't have a ton of renders. Is this accurate? Yeah, there's not a ton of renders to look at. But yeah, this isn't quite how wood grain works. How it's like going off to the side here. And then it like thins out and it's not really quite how it works. It's supposed to be a consistent stripe going all the way through. Also, this looks like an AO generator slapped on here. Probably take a look at that. I like that you got this detail in there. That's cool. And then watch out for this like halo effect too. It also makes it look very CG. I think you could have added more dirt and like grain, or not grain, like oils and stuff to this. I will say you did a really nice job here. A nice job with that. Like some of this stuff looks kind of cool, but it's kind of a lot of like generated curvature. And then the rest looks kind of good, honestly, I think. Yeah, that's so nice. How did you do this rubber band? How did you do this? It unfortunately looks very low poly, but like I can see that you like crumbled it. Although rubber bands don't really crumble like that, I feel like. You know, I feel like, do I have a rubber band here? I thought I had a rubber band here somewhere. I guess I don't, but rubber bands, when they don't really collapse like that. I'm not sure what you did there, but what's up, dude? Should have went with recommend. What do you recommend to be done in ZBrush? Oh, we talked about this earlier. Really quick, we'll get back to your textures, but well, here's my model. Where are we talking about? So the only damage that I sculpted in was the larger like silhouette read areas. That's all I did. So this stuff here. Excuse me. This stuff here. These big chippings here. Which arguably I should have done more with the albedo to kind of sell those a little bit more. But that's about all you need to do. Like some of this damage and stuff. Other than that, scratches, little edge chippings and stuff, those can all be done in Painter. Back to the textures. Okay. So the brushing that you added here is not looking too hot. It's looking, I can maybe see where you pulled it from, but it's a little, it's like all over the place. It's, so when you have different like wood planks going on, you got to kind of like vary it up a little bit. Otherwise, this kind of reads like machined metal a little bit. So I am a fan of how you're doing this noise in here. That is good. It is good stuff. Because I see because I noticed in the reference where you got it from, but it's a little too intense, I think. A little too intense. Oh, so in here we're missing a lot of detail. There's a big inset here. And then the hole is supposed to go through right here. So keep an eye out for that next time. Also a little too thick on these guys. A little too thick. I think that's about all I can say, other than maybe follow the references a bit closer in terms of like how bright some of the colors are. And then yeah, next time let's try to kind of analyze what the wood planks are actually doing. I'm sure there's some tutorials somewhere on some wood. Probably on like Twitter or something how to do it. But other than that, I'd probably just like this noise here feels a little generic. More dirt and oils on it would be cool. Then maybe some more dirt like build up here and stuff. That could be cool. All right. Yeah, maybe a bit too boxy on the model. Too boxy. These areas here are very like kind of organic looking. Like the curves on these parts are very, very organic. And then a little generator heavy on this like edge grain bumping. It's a little too generic looking. I think you should have stenciled some stuff in. But nice renders though. This render looks pretty cool. I don't think I did the best render on this one. That's pretty good. I think this one's probably my favorite. That's pretty good. Then on this one, I think this one might be your best render. Only thing I would do is maybe add a rim light going around. Just kind of a subtle little thing to separate it from the background a little bit more. But other than that, pretty good work. All right. What do you guys think? What do you guys think? Who's the winner? Okay. I gotta look back, see what we got going on here. It's a tough one. It's a tough one to decide the winner. This one's pretty good. This one's pretty good. This one's also pretty good. I think I have my choice. I think let me look at the technical stuff. Hold on. Give me a second. Give me a second. The judging is not finalized. The judging is not finalized. It's a tough one. This is hard. Dude, it's pretty hard to. It's pretty difficult. I'm not gonna lie. Don't know. They're both very well done. I'll say that. I feel like Cyberpadla just slightly nudges ahead because of well, I wish we could see more of this one, honestly. I think I'm gonna go ahead and switch them. I think this one gets first. Second. We're missing some like there's some decisions with the texturing that I don't really agree with on this one. Whereas this one has more that I agree with. And I think overall, I think it's just a little bit, texture quality is a little bit better. Man, it's a tough one. This is a tough decision. But yeah, I think I'm gonna finalize it. I think this one gets first place. Congratulations, Notcolin. Cyberpadla with the insanely close second that had me biting my nails, literally. Nice job. Nice job. Yeah, it's a tough one. There's some about this one that I don't like. There's some about this one I do like and don't like. You know, we can go back and forth, but Notcolin, I feel like Notcolin just is slightly a bit better. I think so. All right. We're gonna end it with that, I think. I apologize for the flip-flopping decision. I apologize. I know it's heartbreaking. I apologize. But it's a tough challenge out there. The weapon room is a cutthroat Discord. I think personally I would go back to this one, remove the scratches, add in some of this detail here, and I think it'll be good to go. A little bit more dirt and oil here, it'll be good to go. I think the one that really struggles with this one is kind of the metal. Feels a little too generic. This one has some really good renders as well. They both have very good renders, but anyways, we're gonna end it there. Thank you guys for participating. Good stuff all around. Good stuff all around. Good work. We got some stuff to learn. We learned a lot today. We learned so much. Probably the most we've ever learned. But Notcolin, Cohen will be DMing you, and I will be DMing you. We did it right. Thank you for the updates, kind strangers, for the follow. Thank you, AMP, for the follow, and Rodri, thank you, dude. Previous challenge participant, Rodri Crespa. I recognize that. All right. Well, I'm gonna end it there. Plus, cool coin inflation is at an all-time high, dude. I'm gonna end it there. Take care. I gotta go eat dinner. Oh, it's 7 o'clock. Oh man. All right. I will see you guys in the next challenge coming soon. Until then, DM me if you have any questions. And when do you think you'll post the next challenge? It's usually within a week, but I get busy. I forget. I work all day, so I get busy. And then I'm playing Dark Souls 3 now, so that's gonna put the kibosh on some things. So, but is the wood tutorial still on? It was never on. It was more of a I'm thinking about it kind of thing. Yeah, I'm thinking about a wood tutorial. It would be essentially. Oh, where's my reference? It would essentially be how to make something like this, if you wanted to learn. If you wanted to learn that. There's even some things on here I don't like anymore. Some parts are cool in this, but some parts are kind of